Hey, all right. Well, this is what I was telling you about my retirement presentation that I've been working on. It's after 28 years. I told you that I couldn't just walk away from the airport without sharing my memories. So thanks for watching this. It all began back in 1969 when I started working on golf courses back in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And I continued doing that until the end of 1979. And I remember one afternoon when I finished work, I think in July of 1979, that I went out to the South Shore where my Sunfish sailboat was. Mrs. Shem came down to the shore and started chatting with me. And she told me about her neighbor, Mrs. Janor. And Mrs. Janor received a phone call from her daughter out in Denver. She was a flight attendant for United Airlines. And she said, "Mom, can you come out this morning? Just drive down to O'Hare and fly out and we'll go shopping in the afternoon and then you can fly home tonight." And she did. And boy, when I heard that, it's like a light bulb came on in my mind. I said, I gotta do that. It just fascinated me. So I formed a game plan. I said, well, we're gonna start praying and fasting. We'll fast once a week and one day a week. And we'll send out applications to every airline and see what happens. Well, actually, it took over 5 years, but I stayed at it. On January 1st, 1980, I moved to Miami Beach. I continued working on golf courses. I was at the Lagorce Country Club, and I was enjoying that. So I continued working there until 1984, when Piedmont Airlines called me. Finally. Well, they were offering $6 an hour part-time. I thought that was great, and free travel benefits. So I interviewed, and the man said, well, I'll let you know at the beginning of the week. So I went out of town for a couple days, but when I got back, a friend of mine said, hey, you need to get to the airport right away. They've been calling for you. You got the job. Well, so I hustled down to the airport, and I met the man who interviewed me, and he said, well, you got the job, but not any longer. We replaced you. Oh my, what a disappointment. I tell you, I didn't know what to do at that point. Should I continue with my dream or go back to Wisconsin? And should I stay with it and keep the faith? Well, I decided, let's do it. Let's continue. And shortly after that, Eastern Airlines called. And they interviewed me, and they hired me. And they hired me at $12 an hour, full time. So I received a double blessing. And it worked out after all. I hung in there and taught me a lesson. And I stayed with Eastern Airlines until we were locked out and the strike occurred on March 4th, 1989. And after the strike at Eastern Airlines, I was without a job for a few months, but American Airlines called me and interviewed me, and they hired me. And this is what I want to tell you that's interesting. I was born June 28, 1950. My first day on the job at Eastern Airlines was June 28, 1984. Not only that, but the first day at American Airlines was June 28, 1989. Both airlines hired me on my birthday. Now, what are the odds of that? Is that a coincidence or what? I think it's more than a coincidence. And my employee number also at American is 174174. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was pretty interesting. People don't know that, but it's pretty unusual. Now, working in Miami, this is what a melting pot. I mean, I've worked with people from all around the world. I've heard a lot of nicknames over the years, and I've always enjoyed hearing those. I wrote as many down as I could think of, and here's some of them: Worm, Lighthouse, Doc, T-Bone, E.T. over in Cargo, Batman, poor Batman, Spider-Man, Goofy, Gooch, Shorty, Nacho, Chino, Tree, Caveman, Horse, Mighty Mouse, Hot Rod, Candyman, and Mr. Clean. Well, and of course, you guys gave me a lot of names too over the years, and I remembered them. Now, back at Eastern, I heard Max Headroom, and then Speedo, Aquaman, Dooster, Waterman. Mario Colon called me Robocop. Eddie Haskell, that's when I had more hair, you remember? Chlorine Dewey, the Dew Man, the Rifleman, the Old Man, Loser, Gilligan, TSA, Jeepers, and Forrest Gump. Well, at this time, I would be remiss if I failed to pay tribute to our fellow workers who have passed away over the years. I don't remember all the names, but I want to mention those that I knew, especially several that were special to me. And one of my good friends, Zepp, who came from, I believe, Laos, was an excellent ping pong player, and he was known as the Candy Man. And I think he's been gone now for about 7 or 8 years, and I still miss him. And I remember that morning when I came to work, the guys told me he had passed away, and we lowered the net on the ping pong table, crossed the ping pong paddles, and had a little tribute to him on the table that afternoon. Nobody played that day. I also want to mention two of my special friends. Andy Carter, who died about 7 years ago. One of the nicest guys out there on the ramp. Boy, I miss him. And the other one is Chris Hagman, my golfing buddy, who just recently passed away, December 15th, 2011. He would have been 49 years old the day after Christmas. One of the hardest workers we had on the ramp. Special guys. Really miss them. Now I want to talk about the stories. It's time to get into some of the things that I think were funny, maybe sad, but here we go. When I first got into Eastern Airlines, I was so excited about flying. I was flying everywhere. Every 2 days off, I was going somewhere, and friends knew that, and they'd always ask, "Where'd you go this week?" And sometimes I'd fly up to Atlanta and look at the monitor and see all the flights going out and say, which one should I go on? It was easier to do that then, you know. And well, I did that a lot. And then I remember in 1985, the 7th game of the World Series between the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals. I was telling a couple people at work, I said, you know, I think I'm going to go to that game tonight. I said, do you have a ticket? I said, no, but I'll go anyway. I'll get in. You got to be kidding me. I said, no, I'm going. No. And I got on the plane. I went out there, and I remember we had to wear a suit and tie when we traveled. And I remember standing up there and saying, right outside the stadium, need one ticket. And there were other people next to me too. But, you know, I'd pray about it and say, Lord, thank you got that ticket for me, you know. And here the people were coming across the street. The guy comes up to me. He ignored the ones next to me. And he said, $40 at cost. I gave him $40. I got an upper deck box seat right on the railing. That was pretty cool. That was nice. And then now it's time to tell you about my trip to Tahiti. I know some know that story, and I guess I should share it. Well, I took my mother down there. And I shouldn't say this either, but to my Eastern friends, but I flew Continental. That was taboo after they bought Eastern, you know. But it was the only game in town, I guess. So I flew from LA to Papeete in Tahiti. And I remember one afternoon, I was down at the beach, and I was looking in the water, and I saw something, and there was somebody else nearby, and I asked him to come over, and then I said, "Take a look at this." There was something like worms in the water, you know. And anyway, we got talking, and he told me he was the station manager for Air New Zealand. And he said, "Listen, if you can't get on the flight going back, just come see me, and I'll get you on." Well, as it turned out, I needed to fly Air New Zealand to get back. Well, that morning, I think it was like a 6:30 a.m. flight. I'm in the bedroom there with my mother and getting dressed. Had my shirt and tie on, my socks, underwear, and everything. But I couldn't find my pants. I lost my pants. I don't know where they were. Even to this day, I don't know what happened to them. And oh boy, what a dilemma. It's 5 in the morning, and everything's closed. And I remember I looked at my mother. She looked at me. She started, a smile broke out on her face. She said, "You're going to have to wear my pants." And oh boy. Well, you know, I'm 6'2", eyes of blue, and she's 5'6" at the time, you know. And oh boy. And they're lavender. Well, I had a light gray suit jacket. So I said, well, I'm going to have to do it. Unless I stay in paradise. That wouldn't have been a bad idea either, but I couldn't afford it. But I put them on, and if you ladies remember what paddle pushers were like, well, that's what they were. And it was quite a sight. But I had a game plan, though. When we got to the airport, I said, look, do as I say. We're going to go through security. And then we're going to go to the corner and hide until everybody's on the plane, so they won't see me. So that was good. But the thing was, I remember when we were going through the security or the checkpoint there, it was just Air New Zealand's screening. That manager was there. I thought he'd say hi to me. He went, and he ignored me. And I felt like a heel. For a guy 6'2", I was about that tall. But I tiptoed through there, and she did as I said, and we were in the corner, and everybody got on the plane. So, but you know what? That wasn't such a great idea either, because as it turned out, we were being the last ones to get on the plane. I had to walk down the aisle, and it's like "Here comes the bride," you know, and everybody was watching us, and I remember. All eyes were on me, but I got down there and got in my seat, never got out of it for 7 hours, and we got back to LA, and that's my story on my trip to Tahiti. But I left paradise feeling like a real goat.